notes that you have as of now, just before we start?
No, let's go ahead, please.
All right, okay, great. So let's start, and I will share my screen. So just briefly checking with you in terms of what are you using right now to be able to attend this session with us?
Can you please say that again?
What are you using to attend this session?
Okay, it's a computer,
All
a
right,
laptop.
okay, that's fine. A laptop, that's great. So you have a good enough screen in terms of
yes,
able to, see everything clearly, and you're able to hear me okay as well.
Yes.
Good stuff. Now, just very briefly, in terms of letting you know, your video is coming blurred. I can't see you properly.
And I don't know why that is. I'm seeing myself blurred as well.
All right, okay, that's fine.
And it's the first time.
So maybe on the laptop, sometimes, the camera needs a bit of a wipe. I don't know, but you could give it a try.
I don't know too. How does it look now?
No, that's fine. No worries. I think, yeah, now it's much better. Much better. Thank you.
Okay.
So it's good to meet up with you. And obviously, thank you so much for choosing us to study this particular qualification. So let me get on with the demo part of it. And what you see on your screen right now is the college website. We call it the digital campus because we're set up as an online provider. So for us, this website is a source of a lot of information. And when you need information, even for yourself, you'll be able to get most of the things from here. Now, the reason I've opened the website is because this is also going to be the start point of everything that you want to access within UK Versity for the purposes of teaching, learning, and even speaking to some of the colleagues and lecturers. Now, on the website itself, if I just scroll down slightly and go to this purple banner or violet color banner, what you're going to see is an important bit, because this will allow you to get in touch with us in 3 ways. One, through the email, which basically is a monitored mailbox. So you get a response in a couple of minutes from us. Unlike universities, when you send an email and takes 3, 4, 5 days to get a response, it'll be a couple of minutes in terms of getting a response on this. You can obviously reach us on the college switchboard, which is this number, Monday to Friday between 9 to 5 p.m. And you'll be able to speak to any of these 7 or 8 different colleagues, related to course coordination, student administration, anything in general, if it's bothering you, or IT and things like that. We have also added you to the WhatsApp group, and this WhatsApp group would allow you to essentially post comments within your group. And this would essentially be related to, I would say aspects of, say, for example, any queries, any urgent requirements, pressing requirements, and you should be able to WhatsApp us. 1 second. And then apart from this, if you do need to get in touch, obviously, with us to be able to get hold of lectures, then you should also know at least the names and the faces who are going to be responsible. So if you go into the About Us section and go to the operations team, we're all based here in Manchester, all in the UK. So there is nobody outside or anybody outside. But when I say UK, I have 1 or 2 lectures in Leicester, 1 in Bradford, but most of us are in Manchester essentially and within UK. So that's me. That's one of my colleagues, Amrita. She's the registrar. So she looks after your registration, and towards the end, we'll look after your certification. Open, because you're on an installment plan, what you're generally going to see is Open and his team, ATHE, are in finance, and they normally would give you subtle reminders through the invoicing system to say the next payment is due. But apart from that, pretty much their interaction with you is going to be very minimal. Apart from that, when you look at the key peoples that you're able to get in touch in the college with the team, is Jill, Gartha, Grace, Aman, and our IT, robot, which we have named as David Law. Just the name that came out of, suggestions, and we named it David Law. Now, as you know, because we are set up online, we use the same systems as university does. So there are lots of it. And obviously, the idea here is to try and make sure that you get access to information. Any sort of information which can be provided to you without human intervention would be possible. Now, Jill is the main person which looks after the coordination between you and lecturers and the sessions which are scheduled for tutorials. So if you ever need any sessions, or if you miss out on any sessions, then she would be your contact point, and she normally does scheduling all the classes, and you would get an email, pretty much from her to say, this is the session schedule, or this is the next unit which is going to start, this is the lecturer, and those would come across to you on an email. Just to share with you how that email looks like, just a random example. She sent across some schedule for the logistics units today to the lecturer and the students, and you would see that this would come across to you. So there is one Zoom link that you normally get. That one Zoom link that you normally get allows you to join multiple sessions of the same unit. And these multiple sessions would be there, which I'll explain a bit later, because each unit we cover in learning outcomes. We don't teach the whole unit in one go. So what we do is we break the unit down as per the learning and awarding bodies guidelines into learning outcomes. And you'll have 4, 5, or 6 lectures for each of the unit to cover the content in entire detail. So the link remains the same, but you would obviously have that schedule starting. The first session starts on this, the second session, and then subsequently, once the sessions are over, we also do an assignment discussion on the unit and the assignment so that you're able to complete and achieve the assignment in the first go. So you will get something like this towards the end of the day for your health and social care course as well. Now, Kartha is one of my colleagues. She looks after speaking to you once in a fortnight to find out how your course is going. Are you attending lectures? Are you able to attend lectures? Are there any issues, problems? So she's like a pastoral support officer, and she would provide any sort of support. If there is anything troubling you, bothering you, you can discuss with her. And then she picks up that internally with different colleagues to sort that problem out for you. Grace, she's an IT, and she basically looks after making sure all the things are digitally recorded and available to students. So when I go to the Moodle platform, she's the one who maintains it. When I look at recordings of the session, she's the one who maintains it. And you'd be able to request a recording, a resource. If you find a book is missing, or if you need additional resources, sending her an email will allow her to put that onto you on your platform instantly. Aman pretty much is the same person, but he's more like a manager. And obviously he does the coordination overall to see how your course is going. And when it comes to inspections, external visits for certification with the external examiners, he would get into it, and he would basically ensure that once we sign and, sign off your work, then it is 100% certifiable. There is no questions or doubts which are raised. So he works very closely with the IQA, which is Shazia, an internal quality assurer, and she ensures that all the assessments work that is submitted is meeting the criteria, you're getting the grades that you want, and essentially you're happy with achieving the qualification the way you plan to do so. Now, when I go into lecturing team, you have Reena, she's the lead assessor. So she normally ends up marking all your assignments. You generally see that the marking is quite detailed, it's quite fair, and obviously one of the things that we request most learners to do when they submit assignments at a later stage, when you are ready to do so, is that you also mention the grade that you're trying to achieve, because she will ensure that the feedback from lecturers is commensurate to helping you achieve that grade. Because sometimes learners would say, okay, I'm happy with a pass, then the feedback would be, related to helping you achieve a pass. But if you say I want to achieve a merit or a distinction, then the feedback from the lecturers is going to be such that it helps you and guides you, not to say that revisit this session or go and look at that slide and, but the feedback is going to be quite directive to help you say that this is what is missing, this is what needs to be added, here's an example of what you need to do, and that would allow you to redress, amend the work so that you're able to pass it or achieve that grade the next time when you submit. Now, in your qualification, there are specialist units. Most of the units are going to be delivered by Daniel. He's the health and social care lecturer, and Dr. Anita. She's a qualified MBBS doctor, and she teaches public health and social care programs. She's also the head of public health at University of Bolton. So these two people predominantly, along with Patricia, who's the lecturer on health and social care as well, these are the three people which will generally teach and deliver all the units that you're going to study in the course. So there are 8 or 9 units that you're going to study, and they're going to be delivered by specialist lecturers who have been teaching obviously this subject area for a number of years, and they have a relevant degree or a qualification from a point of view of teaching degree, as well as a bachelor's in health and social care qualification minimum to be able to teach and deliver this qualification. So you're in very good hands. Obviously, there are other team people in the team, which obviously healthcare lecturer also is Mazhar. So there are 4, but sometimes you'll get to see 2 or 3, depending on which cohort you're in and what stage of your course delivery you are actually studying. So Even in my case, I teach health and social care because I have a qualification at level 7, and I've been teaching healthcare from 2013, 2014. But generally speaking, I more tend to specialize. If any of the other lecturers are not available, then I would normally step in to teach a particular unit. But from a point of view of maintaining CPD and obviously looking at current skills and knowledge, I think we'll be looking at these 3, 4 people who are within the sector, working within the sector, and obviously are the key lecturers in this area. Now, the other bits which I want to quickly show you with regards to the website is when you scroll down to the footer, you are going to be able to see social media icons, and that is where our YouTube channel is. The reason I say the YouTube channel, and for the duration that you're studying with us, I would suggest that you subscribe to our channel, because there are lots of deliveries that we've done for health and social care courses, which have been done by different lecturers. I have Dr. Elvis, I have Dr. Chibuzu, who are part-time lecturers who basically teach in the university. One of them is the head of health and social care at UCHEN. The other is a head of health and social care department at De Montfort. Now we invite some of these lecturers to also do teaching for some of these units from time to time. So if you listen and if you plan to listen into delivery of lectures from different lecturers in the course, then what you would need to do is go onto our YouTube channel, and we keep uploading videos. Subscribe to it, but at the same time, go to the playlist, because we teach 166 courses. So it'll be best for you to be able to find lectures by going into playlist, and within that playlist, try and go into the health and social care management playlist, which will have all the lecture videos for the units that you're trying to study in the course, which is this playlist here, healthcare management. So when I click on this, it will essentially open up all the videos which are there in health and social care management. And I think there are in excess of 450 videos that we've uploaded here, and they're all neatly labeled, basis the unit name, and you're able to see lectures from different people at any given point in time, depending on the unit you're studying. This would be apart from the lectures that you are going to get from us directly, and those would be also live teaching sessions. So these lectures are not amended or computer recorded. They are live lectures which have some sort of verbatim, some discussion depending on learners. But in these lectures, they're quite detailed, because these lectures would cover the unit and its content in a great amount of detail when we do them. Now, last but not the least, in terms of the website, you also need to be able to access the Moodle, which is our learning platform. So on the top of the website, you have this particular button which says LMS login, Moodle login essentially. When I click on this, it opens up and launches the site from which you are going to get most of the teaching and learning material from. So when you go into the site, what this particular thing would also do at any given point in time is provide you books, presentations, handouts, and details related to the course that you're studying. So I hope you've received the logins for this from Andy. And when you put your username here in small letters in the password and click on the greater than arrow, you're able to log into the system. And when you're logged in, there are 2 ways to look at your course. It'll show you a dashboard, which will have some announcements and timelines coming up. But apart from this, it'll show you a global calendar, which will also allow you to sort and see your sessions that are scheduled as far as the course is concerned. Now, if you want to go into your course, there are 2 ways of doing it. One, you go into the awarding body name, ATHE, hover over that and go to level 5, health and social care management. The other way would be to look at clicking on my courses. And in the my courses section, I'm logged in as the administrator today because I need to show you the system. But in your my courses, you will see one tile and one course that you are enrolled with us on. And that should allow you to go into the course content material that you have for this particular course. So this is your course, Level 5 Extended Diploma in Health and Social Care Leadership. When I click on this, you get into the course side of things. And what you're going to see on the left-hand side is going to be your menu. And on the right-hand side is going to be the course content. Now, in this system, if I click on collapse all and expand all, these would give you a snapshot of what units you're expected to study in this course. Now, there is a specific way in which how the course material in these units are organized. So If I'm in your shoes and I'm studying this particular course, there are a couple of things that I would normally do. If I know which unit I'm going to study, assuming you understand that, and then you click on that particular unit, it will open up the course content for you on that unit. Now, just to share and show you how the course content would look like on your side, if I click on the first unit on the left, you would see certain documents. Now, these documents are going to be generally PDF, because PDF documents can be nicely formatted and they open up in the same format and get treated in the same way if you're using and opening them on a PDF, on a mobile, on a PC, on a laptop, or on a tablet. So the first document that you're generally going to see on your system is going to be what is called the unit specification, which is the first document on the unit. Now, this particular document is a document that we as lecturers use to primarily develop the teaching content and also to teach you what is required to learn in this unit. So it'll have things like the aims and objective, the grading, the credit value of the unit, but along with that, most importantly, it'll have the learning outcomes and the assessment criteria that we need to cover in lectures. So when we do lectures, we cover one lecture for one learning outcome. Second would be for learning outcome through, then 3, and then 4. And then the fifth lecture on this unit is going to look at assignment discussion session. And that would allow you to understand how do you collate the evidence, how do you put your assignment together, and how does the assignment look like for you to submit to be able to achieve the grade that you're trying to achieve. Now, in order to develop the teaching material, we use this unit specification also because I can't just teach you anything in the course. So I have to cover what is being mentioned by the awarding body in the presentations and in my lecture. So when you attend lectures for Unit 1, it is going to cover all this content in the presentation. When you go to Lecture 2, it'll cover all this in the presentation. So our lectures are not like the university style lectures wherein I give you a brief overview and then we ask you to do additional self-study with this book or that book or this article, this case study. We are going to cover entirety of the indicative content in the lectures. And that is why this is the first document that we have on all the units that you see when you study the unit with us. The second document is always going to be the assignment brief. And the assignment brief is something that you will attempt. You will be attempting after you complete the unit, and this is set by the awarding body. So it'll give you some activities, and activities will have some sub-activities which you will need to complete as tasks and questions. Most assignments from ATHE tend to be a combination of two things. It is not asking you to write pages and pages of material, but what the assignment briefs would do in some stages would be to essentially ask you to produce an output, which is going to be a practical output. Now, in most units that you will study, in most cases, it will be two types of output. One will be a PowerPoint presentation, and the second would be a Word document. So we also want to test the knowledge and skills that you have learned from studying this unit. So when you start doing the assignment, you would generally see that it'll ask you to create, in this case, a presentation, which is a PowerPoint presentation. In task 2, it is asking you to write a report. And task 3, again, it is asking you to write a report. Now, the reason of breaking it down into different forms of assessment is that we don't want it to be monotonous. We also want it to be engaging and interactive. And we also want to look at relieving the load on the learner to be able to produce evidence, because the idea is you're not producing everything back which has been taught. You're producing bits and pieces of it which will show your knowledge and ability in terms of skills that you've gained from the study of that unit. Now, when you look at the presentations are quite detailed. These presentations would generally have certain empty slides because these are discussion points which the lecturers will use and discuss with you when they start the topic, but they are going to cover everything in a lot of detail with examples. So everything that we look at in terms of indicative content is going to be covered here. And what you will also see is that these presentations will go into what are called the assessment criteria after covering the learning outcome in detail, the overarching view of the learning outcome. And they'll go into individual assessment criteria as well, so that you know exactly what is required to be covered, what is required to be understood from a knowledge perspective. Now, these presentations would be broken down into learning outcomes. And when I say learning outcomes, because the unit is being taught in learning outcomes, you are also going to see presentations in the form of learning outcomes. And these presentations will cover each of that particular learning outcome in a great amount of detail, simply because they are required for you to be able to understand, study, and gain the knowledge. Now, once this has been done and the lecture has been done, what you're going to then see is videos which will start to appear on your slides. And these videos will be recorded lectures that you will get to see within the units. Now, how would they look like? Just to give you an idea. So when you go into your course and you've had lectures for the units, what at some stage would happen is that the presentations will be augmented by what are called videos, which are going to come up, and assignment submission links, which are going to start coming up on your side. And in some cases, you would also see some handouts being uploaded, which would be Word handouts that we want you to use as templates to be able to use and produce that for the assignment. So they would start coming in at some stage when the delivery and the lectures of your course have actually started. And the videos that you look at would look like these. So they will come up as boxes, which will be underneath each of the presentation slides. And you are going to see these videos. If you want to revisit the lecture, you want to go back and listen into the lecture again, you would have them broken down into learning outcomes. And each of these lectures would then be easily something that you can access, view, and because they are coming up on the system, you have the ability to be able to also play them at a little higher speed should you want to revise or revisit them.
Good morning, everyone.
And that is how these would tend to appear on your Moodle. Is that okay?
Yes, that's fine.
Good stuff. Now, one bit which you would see as you go into your course in a day or so, when you start getting the teaching schedule, you would see that your course material in the units will start getting populated by things which are going to be related to things like ebooks, handouts, case studies, research articles, and recorded lectures. So as we go along, as we refresh and teach, you would see that the unit and the content under these units will start to expand. And they will be giving you comprehensive coverage in terms of studying that unit. You wouldn't need to go to Google. You wouldn't need to refer a book elsewhere. You would not need to refer articles or things which are required from Googling from Google itself, because what we do want at some stages, when we do submit your assignments and when you are closer to submitting assignments, we don't want any similarity. We want original work. We want to make sure that everything that you get is coming from the system. You are able to reference it. And that is where you have one stop shop for the whole course, rather than look at this website, that website, this book, that book. Everything would be available here. Now, that is about the systems part of the demo, because what I would suggest here would be to go in and obviously start looking at some of the content. And today, our focus is primarily going to be on some of the content which is in the general section, to go through and show you some bits ins and out into the journal section, which is the course handbook, assignment submission guidelines. There are some essential and useful documents that we are going to put on here, which will be used at a later stage by you when you start, going into the course and obviously start to look at, receiving lectures. So my session would be to primarily start looking at the journal section of the course. And this journal section of the course would have a couple of things that we would want you to have. And they are going to be something which I will show you as a bit of a, let's say a precursor today, so that you know what you are expected to do and what you're expected to have, so that most of them.
Sorry for the break. I'm so
Yes.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah. It's only stay in that corner. Where the TV? Yes. So here. I'm sorry. Yeah, can you say I'm the source? We'll speak. I'm sorry, we can go on now.
Okay, great. So they are the bits that we are going to go through today, just to understand a couple of things with relation to important bits, which are things that you will follow through more or less throughout the duration of your study. But in brief, that allows us to cover, we'll come back to the system again, but for now, it allows us to cover the systems part of it in terms of demo. So the website, which is, how to access it, and what is the web address for the website.
Yes,
You
I do.
know the YouTube channel, which is obviously, in our case, quite simple and easy enough to remember, which is youtube.com, and then it's all one word, which is UK Versity Online. And then we've added you to the WhatsApp group so that it's
Yes.
easy and convenient for you to, get in touch. Moodle, which is the main platform, LMS or Moodle as we call it, Learner Management System, and then Zoom is the app that you're using. You don't need any subscriptions for it. Every time we ask you to get onto a lecture, you'll receive a link, you register, and just straight away get onto the session with us. And at least the team, you'll obviously get to interact with them at some point in time, but who the people are and how to get in touch, and at least there's a face and a name that for now to begin with. Now, what we're going to go into the second part is basically looking at the course overview, look at the course handbook, units, and obviously the expected study schedule. So I'll take you back to the system. Everything that I'm going to open will come from the system so that it's all here. This is the first document that you see under journal section. If I collapse all again, and if I open the journal section, the first document is the course handbook. Now, you're quite lucky and fortunate because you're studying the most latest and the up-to-date version of this particular qualification, which was refreshed in January 2024, and we started to teach in April. The first teach of this qualification happened in April. You're doing the extended diploma in health and social care, and your pathway that you're looking at doing is the leadership, because that is what takes you towards even meeting the CQC guidelines should you decide to work as a compliance manager, standards manager, quality manager, or open your own care setup or an agency. And this qualification would meet that particular pathway. Now, the course handbook is a good document. It's a 100-page document, but it's a good document for you to familiarize yourself with a couple of things. Number one, who's the awarding body? So they've been going, they are a body which broke away from NCFE in 2009 and is a very well-reputed awarding organization whose qualifications are on UCAS. They have progression with 40 different universities, and their qualifications are globally valid. So it stands for Awards for Training and Higher Education. So it's an awarding body which has been offering these qualifications since 2009, and we became a center for them in 2012. So we have been offering ATHE qualifications since 2012, and they come across in various different subject areas like accounting, business, law, healthcare, management, and they have specialist qualifications as well. Some of them we tend to offer in teaching and religious studies like Jewish studies and things like that. So if you want to get a bit of a background about the awarding body, you would have a couple of pages that you can go through, and that would
have gone through this part already.
That's great. That's great. Now, in this part, what I want you to look at is two things in this document, which is important. The first part is the grading criteria, because at the end of the day, you're looking at doing this qualification, and I would want you to achieve this in the highest possible grade that you want to achieve. So the grading criteria is given on page 8 and I think page 11 and 12 and 13 and 14. Now, this is important is because when you look at the units you're expected to cover, they are given on page 13. And then depending on, there are some mandatory units, which are the units that everybody has to do. And then there is an optional unit that you have to choose from one section and then another unit from the other section. And that will take you to cover 120 credits. So this page on page 13 is important. And then it gives us the guidance on assessment and grading. How does it happen? So each unit is graded, and there is a clinical grading scale which the awarding body has put behind the qualification. So I cannot say that, okay, Olu is my favorite student, and what I'll do is I'll give her all the merits. No, there is a way that the grade would be calculated by the systems depending on the units and the credit the unit carries. So if I show you this for an instant, the reason I want to do this is so that you are aware that when you put your efforts in, which units are the units on which you need to put a bit more effort because they have heavy weightage in terms of credit. And obviously getting a higher grade would mean a bigger multiplier to get overall points on that. Now, because you're doing an extended diploma, all the units that you will study will add up to some points. So if your points fall between 360 and 431, you'll receive an overall pass. If it's a merit, it has to be this. And if it's a distinction, it has to be over 540 points. Now, pass units normally, when you attempt pass criteria in the unit, they will only give you 45 points. And when you do merit, it will give you between 45 to 55. And when you do distinction, it will be between 65 to 75 points. So in most cases, this would follow this kind of a grading. If I just scroll down to one unit and I say that each of this assessment criteria is 5 points. So if I do just the past tasks of the assignment, then how many points would I get? If I total them up, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45 points. So this 45 matches the points that they've written here. So it's very clinical. Now, if I decide to get merit, then I have to attempt all the past tasks plus the merit task. So merits would be normally 2 opportunities and it'll tip you over 55. So 45 plus 5, 50 and 55. As you can see, there are 2 opportunities. So you'll go to 45. And if it's a distinction, it'll be 65 to 75. So 55, 60 and 65. That means this unit, which has 15 credits, if you score a distinction, would get a multiplier of 5. So all distinction would get a multiplier of 5, all passes would get a multiplier of 3, and merits would get a multiplier of 4. So if I were to look at 9 units that you're completing, and in these 9 units that you're completing, if all the units were 15 credits and you multiply 5 by 15 because you're achieving distinction, that would mean that it will tip your grade over the 540 mark to be able to achieve an overall distinction. So that is why grading is important, and grading, how you understand the grading criteria, it is important, because some of the units you're going to study, obviously remain the same credits, but sometimes the content of the units and the detailing that you have to do in terms of assignments would mean that you have to put in a lot of work. So sometimes learners, what they say is, okay, this unit is important, but it's not my area of interest. I will be happy to get a pass. So as long as you get 6 merits, and maybe 1 distinction and the other is pass, your overall grade would move to merit. If you get, say, 6 distinctions and more, you would probably move overall to distinction, even if the other 2 units have a pass only in them. So understanding the grading criteria is important. The second point which I want to mention in this, which is important, is that nowadays there's a lot of emphasis being paid on the use of AI, artificial intelligence, and writing of assignments. So as a center, we are expected to ensure that all the assignments that the learners submit have not more than 20% similarity. That means 80% of the work is original, and there is no, when I say no, it can't be negligible, but not more than 20% of the work when it scans for the report in terms of AI can be greater than that to show originality of the document, or if it is written by artificial intelligence. So in such cases, what you're going to see is that when you do submit your assignments, we would be scanning your work for malpractice in terms of, when I say malpractice, what I mean by that in terms of chat GPT or related detection, and the other would be related to the plagiarism on the assignment, which is to detect how much of the work being submitted is original and how much of that work is copied or cut and paste, or work which is not original essentially. So if I show you 2 screenshots right now, or 2 reports essentially of the screen, you would get a fair idea in terms of what I mean by that. So let me just share my full screen. So on the left, what you see is an example of the AI report. Now, as you can see, just as an example, this assignment submitted by the learner actually shows that this is 70% written by artificial intelligence. So this assignment, obviously, when we scan it, shows the parts which are highlighted in yellow, and that is where it has no referencing. It is data actually copied or pasted or generated through a software. And the other report that you see, which is primarily a report on plagiarism, And this shows that the assignment submitted has 3% similarity. So most of the work which has been submitted is original, and this is acceptable. So it would mean that if sometimes the work submitted has low plagiarism, but it has detection of AI, that would still mean that you will get this report back in your email. There'll be some instructions on the last page of the report, and what it'll ask you to do is paraphrase, reference the work in order to reduce the verbatim or the evidence which has been written using a software. So this is something that you have to stay very clear of. And there are strict guidelines in terms of markdowns. So essentially, because it's a graded qualification, the first warning is going to be that if we do find instances of plagiarism or AI, what will happen is your assignment will have a markdown. That means the marks are going to be capped at pass only. And in such cases, that will be detrimental, for you. But what we generally do as a center is we send this report back to you so that you're able to see, and you have the ability and the opportunity to paraphrase and reference the work and then resubmit to be able to still achieve that grade. But the second time, if it's still found, then we have to act on it, and we have to look at a bit of a markdown on the qualification, which will mean that you'll only be receiving a pass on that unit. And this is the reason why we do an assignment discussion session, so that we'll tell you, see, even as a lecturer, I use ChatGPT sometimes to do my research, which is absolutely fine. But that could be a draft document I create, but basis that draft, I then write and reference my bit in the document and then submit for the purposes of evaluation and feedback. Is that okay?
That's all right.
So that's the bit in the course handbook. All the unit specifications, everything, we've taken them out as PDFs from the course handbook, and they've been uploaded into individual sections in the units that you would see on Moodle. Now, one or two other small bits which I want you to look at is assignment submission guidelines, which is a presentation that you can look at some stage, and there's a video of it that we have created, because there's no point in obviously writing and providing everything in terms of slides. So there's a small videos. These small videos is what you will generally see, which we have created, which in 30 seconds give you an idea in terms of what is required to be done when you do submit your assignments. So this is just one that I want to show you for now. But obviously, at some stage when you start doing things and obviously start studying, you'll probably get to see some of these videos in any case.
I've seen this already.
Great. Very great. Very good. So now let's go back into one or two small bits that I want to look at with regards to the assessment and feedback process. Now, this is looking at it figuratively in terms of understanding what is the feedback, how do you get it, and plagiarism and similarity. But that is the least of the things that we need to worry about right now. What we want to be able to see is how is the actual process and how does it work in terms when you look at doing your first assignment and when you submit, and where do you submit. So let me show you one or two examples. So let me come back to this and go into this bit now. Just 1 second. So one other thing which I want to show you is a sample. So this is how you would receive your diploma at the end of it when you achieve the qualification. It will say your name. Obviously, it will say the grade that you've achieved. It will name the name of the qualification, some useful data. And then on page 2, it will show you a transcript, which will say what units you have covered, what grades you achieved in the final award that you receive from the awarding organization. So this is how your diploma would look like. And when it comes to applying to UCAS, and obviously for further progression, if you do decide to study further, then things like the qualification code and the the credits that you've achieved in the qualification would come in quite handy. And that's how this would look like. Now, let's look at going into the assessment and feedback process. And how would this look like? So let me open one random assignment. And what I want to do in that assignment primarily is show you how the feedback is primarily provided. So let me just do one thing, minimize all the other windows so that we are able to pay attention on this one. So what you see on my screen is two documents in particular, and I've just randomly opened up two documents to show you how this process works. Now, one of the things that we would want to look at in general would be, sorry, just to move it around, and I want to bring this back on. So one of the things that we want to look at in the assessment and feedback process is, so how do we do feedback on the assignment? The first thing that we feedback on the assignment is we do some annotations by putting some remarks to say whether the task is achieved, not achieved, and why it has been achieved. So when you get your assignment back as a Word document that you submit or a PowerPoint doc presentation you submit, you're always going to see reviews and commenting on your assignment. And this commenting on the assignment will tell you what you're doing right, what you're doing great, and how you're achieving the assignment, for example. Now, in certain cases, if we do find that there are bits and pieces missing, then this feedback on the assignment is going to be quite detailed, because this will tell you what is missing in the assignment and why you need to resubmit or why you need to add material to be able to achieve this assignment. Now, once you get this back from us, this becomes a working document. It goes back and forth between you and the learner and the teacher until you're happy with the grade and the assessment is fully complete. This would then at some stage become a final submission. But generally speaking, we normally have this going back and forth that, if at all it happens only once, because after that, what will happen is we'll end up doing a tutorial with you, and that tutorial will essentially tell you exactly, what is it that you're doing wrong, what is it that you're not doing wrong, and we will essentially take you through it rather than do it on the email, because it's much easier to have a conversation face to face and then do it. The second thing that we will do with the assignment that you submit, once it has been marked, we are going to scan it for, as I mentioned, plagiarism and similarity. And as you can see, zero plagiarism, human written, which is absolutely fine. And this assignment will then move towards a grading criteria. So I'll close this document, and this is a summary that you will receive along with the assignment, which will confirm the assessment and confirm the grade that you've achieved. And this will not change. This is what you should expect to see on your certification, because when you get this feedback, it has been signed off by the assessor and has also been signed off by the quality manager that yes, the grade is correct, the work is meeting the criteria, and this would then reflect on your certification. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's all right.
So this process is what we follow for the process of, giving assessment and feedback. And the reason why we do it on email is that this is going to be giving you an opportunity to essentially address or amend your work should it be required. Now, where do you submit assignments? You submit assignment to learnerwork at email address called ukversity.co.uk. When you do make a submission, you get an acknowledgement receipt, just like in universities, that I've got my assignment, electronic submission has happened. The assignment automatically undergoes a plagiarism and a scan for AI. If the AI is greater than 20, plagiarism is greater than 20, you get a copy of that report back on your email straight away. And that copy of the email, report in the email would essentially have some write-up to say, this is what you need to do, because that is where the technology comes in. Once we find that this is fine, it will still go to the lecturer who's taught that unit, and that lecturer will still mark that unit. They don't get to see plagiarism in AI, because I don't want my lecturers to say, oh, I don't need to mark this assignment, it has more similarity. No, your job is to look at the evidence. Your job is to look at what has been presented and whether it is meeting the criteria or not. And at the same time, in the background, the administrators look at AI and plagiarism. So you need to assess the assignment and feedback to the learner in 3 to 5 working days. And if there is issues on similarity, originality, the administrators would deal with it. But that would still mean the work would not stop, and you would get feedback back from us so that you are fresh with the feedback. You're fresh in terms of study of the unit, and that would mean if anything needs to be changed or amended, you are able to do it there and then, rather than waiting for 2 weeks or 3 weeks before I then start forgetting and I have to revisit everything. So the feedback normally takes not more than 3 to 5 working days. When I say 3 to 5, Generally, you'll have feedback when you submit assignment, you would get feedback the same day, to be honest. But on certain days, if we have a lot of backlog and obviously a lot of assignments coming in, generally it would be 3 to 5 days, but you'd probably get feedback in a day or two from the lecturer. Now, in addition to that, if you are submitting the assignment, if you mention what grade you are trying to achieve, and if we find that you have attempted only the past tasks and you're trying to achieve merit or distinction, then the feedback from the lecturer would encourage you to say, can you attempt this task? Can you do this as well? Look at this to be able to achieve. And that would allow you to achieve and resubmit to get that grade. But sometimes what happens is if in the email you have submitted your assignment and you say, okay, I'm not looking at doing this, then in those cases, what happens is the feedback from the lecturer is quite generic. They only look at assessing what you have presented, and they would then give you a grade straight away according to that. So it is important that you mention this and you follow the structure of the assignment brief to do the task. You write them carefully, copy and paste the task from there as it is without omitting the command verbs, and that would give them enough time and idea to assess them properly to say you're meeting the grade, you're hitting the grade. Is that okay? Now,
Yeah, that's okay.
Apart from this, in terms of, how do you submit assignments? Normally what happens is if you start studying unit 1 and you have 5 lectures, that would be completed in about 2 weeks because you'll have 2 sessions every week. Now, what we do is we give you 2 weeks time to be able to submit assignment after the unit and assignment discussion session is completed. The reason we say 2 weeks is, although you have flexibility, you're doing the course online, you have 2 years to be able to complete the qualification. There is no additional charge that you will pay either on registration, access, whatever it is. But while you're at it, when you're receiving the lectures, you're studying, you're fresh with everything, we would expect and we would suggest the students to complete everything along with us because we have other things in life, kids, family, job, other things that we do. And sometimes this gets pushed aside. So the idea of having live lectures, unlike other distance learning providers, is we want to keep a tab on your progress. We want to make sure if you're paying, you are achieving the qualification. And this is a slight nudge in that direction to say, okay, now we have finished unit 1. Let's complete and submit within 2 weeks. If you need additional time, you inform us. If you need additional tutorial, you inform us, and there could be a tutorial scheduled with you and the lecturer specifically one-on-one. There are no charges for it. But the idea is we want you to look at also completing the units as you go along getting lectures, so that you don't have anything pending. And towards the end of it, sometimes I have learners who will come back and say that, no, I'll do the qualification, but I'll submit assignments all in one go. And that never happens. We've seen that with an approach in the last 9 years that we have offered this always through blended learning. And we don't see that it becomes a bit too much for the learners to do. So you have to keep chipping away at it every week by looking at allocating 1 to 2 hours of additional study after our lectures. And they're quite detailed. It's not like lectures like 25-30 minutes. There will be detailed lectures, and that would allow you to study, get the grasp of the unit, and then also start doing your assignment. Is that okay?
That's okay.
Good stuff. Now, this brings us to the end of what I actually wanted to take you through in terms of the 4 major points. The introduction to the course, a bit of overview, systems, and also the assessment and feedback process. Now, what we also want to do is look at 1 or 2 important bits in terms of putting together a study schedule. So I want to know what are the best times and days. If you were to attend live lectures with us, what would be those best times and days?
For the days, any day is fine, but time will be late in the evening, probably when the kids are away and when I can concentrate, when visitors would not knock, like the one who just knocked a few moments ago.
No, that's perfectly okay. We understand that. And sometimes I do lectures from home on weekends, and obviously we have our kids and our pets running into it. So that is all acceptable because most of our learners you would see are, age 35 or over. So we understand that, the reason why we can't leave a full-time job or why we are doing it online is because I'm happy to go to a university, but I don't have the time and the leisure to be able to do it. So the only option that I have right now is to look at doing this online, and which is what we understand. Now, just to work with you on this, in terms of our lectures right now, we do them on Thursdays and Fridays. So Thursdays and Fridays, we do between early mornings, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. so that it is out of the way. You're able to get the lecture when you're fresh. You've left your kids to school. You come back straight away, do the lecture, and then you have the rest of the day to yourself. And the other way that we do lectures is on Saturday and Sunday, and they tend to be again between 10 to 11 a.m. Reason, because you have lots of things, friends coming over, family, kids looking at their homework, lots of activities. So what we want to do is basically get the lecturing and the teaching side of things out of the way in the first half of the day itself, early. This time can also be pushed to 9 to 10 a.m., considering we'll have the summertime getting over next month. So obviously days are shorter. And in such cases, what we want to be able to do is get the lecturing out of the way, on these days. So what we would do is put together a schedule which works for you. We have some other learners also on this program, and we would want them to also be present when you do lectures so that there's a bit of an interaction going between some of the learners, and it allows for developmental, skills essentially, because you're able to ask questions and, put the lecture onto the spot as well, sometimes for their knowledge and what they're teaching. So what I would do is I would prefer that. I know that you've given me times, but when you say evening times, what are the evening times? Can you specify what you mean by evening times?
For me, the most convenient will be between 8 and 10 p.m. for me.
8 and 10 p.m. Okay.
Mm.
And if I look at weekdays, again, the same times in the evening?
Yes, all week. Those are my best times all week.
That's fine. Okay, so what I will do is I'll keep that in mind, and I'm going to pass this information, to Jill. And that would basically mean that she would then have a bit of a quick discussion and, check with everyone. Sometimes, I'll be honest here with you, sometimes it becomes a bit difficult because although we would try and democratically strive to get everyone the times that they want, but what we then tend to do is, because there are lots of learners studying on the course and they are studying at different levels in different units, I think it is a difficult job which Jill has in terms of synchronizing and getting everybody to keep everyone happy. So what we're going to do is obviously try and see if we can get some of the learners to agree and have those same times. And if it works for them, then it'll work for you. But sometimes it's the case that I'll make you happy this time, but next time I'll go to some other learners and make them happy and do the lectures. So if you miss out on any, it is not an issue because of the fact that they're all recorded. And recordings would be made available through the WhatsApp group, and they'll go on to the Moodle as well. So you're able to catch up at your own time as well. And I think because we have mature learners, what we do generally see is the flexible approach wherein some of you are able to, you're happy doing a bit of self-study. And then sometimes what some of my learners do is they'll come back and say, okay, I've gone through all the recordings, I've gone through the presentation, but I have some doubts and I need a tutorial. So then that tutorial could be 5 minutes, 50 minutes, 5 hours, but it's done on a time and a day at which you are happy to attend, and the lecturer would do it one-on-one with you, so that you are not being held up in terms of your progress vis-a-vis other learners progressing, say on a weekly or weekly lecture or a monthly lecture basis. So both the approaches can apply, and whichever one works for you as flexible, do let Jill know, and obviously I'll pass and convey what I've got from you today so that she's able to put something together and send you a schedule starting for this week, later this week. Is that okay?
Yes, having said that, circumstances may change at any time.
Yeah.
So I don't think
that's absolutely fine. So we will also adjust. And I think that's the whole idea of flexibility with us is that is the reason why you're doing this course online. So, unlike universities, if they have classes on Wednesday or Friday, they'll do it that day. And we have the ability to be able to flex around and obviously change the schedule so it meets the needs of our learners. Believe you me, none of me or my lecturers get the joy of recording a session in front of the computer. We've got 10,000 sessions. There's no other provider in the UK, or at least I know of elsewhere, who has got 10,000 teaching sessions recorded. And this is something I'm saying from last year's data. So we do average on an average 2,500, 3,000 lectures every year. And that keeps adding to our, so if we were getting students and we were looking at they only studying themselves, we could have easily provided them copies of recordings and say, okay, here you go. This is a 12-week-old recording, or this is this recording. We don't have lectures which you're going to listen into, which are 3 years old or 4 years old. They're all refreshed every 12 to 16 weeks because we teach this course at least 5 or 6 times a year. So you'll be listening into something which is latest, up to date, presentations are updated, And when you see presentations on Moodle, you will see LO1 and it'll say -new. That means some slides have been updated. And that is what, will happen every couple of weeks on the lectures.
1 minute, please.
Sure.
Later. You want to go on. I'm sorry, let's go on.
Yeah, that's the bit which I wanted to look at, obviously sharing with you with regards to, the bits on the course induction, so that you are confidently now looking at, starting the course with us, and the systems and the people behind who are going to be involved in delivery. So that's the bit which I have taken you through, and I think that helps me cover most of it. Now, over to you in terms of if you have any questions or any queries.
Well, I think you have addressed most of my questions. All the questions I made mental notes of. At some point, you just come up and okay, was he reading my mind? So you basically have answered all my questions. I was going to ask about the duration, what the maximum allocated time, but you said 2 years already. So
yeah, 2 years.
That answers
when your awarding body registration runs out, there will be enough checks that we will do. I think if you're going to study with us live through the lectures, we will teach and deliver the course in 26 weeks. 6 to 9 months is what I would suggest. If you, set an expectation to complete in 6 to 9 months, it'll be a very good achievement, which is what universities would do. So we will follow that as far as teaching and delivery is concerned. We can pause teaching and delivery. We do that in 2 or 3 weeks in the year. One is during the winter break. So from 20th of December, everything shut down. And, we go back on the 2nd of January. There is a bit of a break that we do in Easter, which is mid-April. But summers, we pretty much tag along and we go along in terms of course delivery. So we are never off in the sense like universities are off for 3 months or things like that. You'll have delivery consistently throughout the year. We can slow down the pace a bit depending on how the learners want it. We can increase the pace a bit. So instead of 1 unit, we can deliver 2 units at the same time, 2 weeks. So you have 4 lectures with 2 different lecturers happening, and that can allow you to fast track or complete the course earlier. So both the flexibilities are available, not a problem at all.
All right. I think then you mentioned Moodle. Is Moodle an app I should download, or is it different from what we have on the website?
Moodle is also an app that you can download, but sometimes depending on the phone and the version of the app that you have downloaded, it might not configure properly in terms of working on the system. But you should be able to use it essentially, and there is a demo that we have and I will send you a link of it. It's a 30-second demo. It tells you which kind of app to download, because there are lots of apps developed by third-party developers. Moodle is a company based in Malaysia. They run this system. It is used by 40,000 universities and colleges worldwide. So there is a specific free app that they give. That is what I'll send you a link of and a video. You can download and see, and you should be able to install it by putting your username and your password. But when you download it, you would need to find the Moodle of UK Versity, because Moodle as a word is a generic word. So it'll show you lots of installations. And what you will need to do is essentially download and click on the right Moodle, which is our Moodle, to be able to actually use that app.
All right.
I'll send that to you on the email as a link.
All right. That's okay. Thank you.
Brilliant. So I'll pass this information on to Jill, and then she'll send across a schedule for the first unit or the unit that you're starting off with us this week. And then I'll be in touch with you, or one of my colleagues will be in touch with you as we go along.
All right. Thank you so
much. Let me ask you one last question. What is the best way to call you? What is the name your friends call you with?
It's Olu. OLU is the simplest.
OLU, that's fine. Okay. Because we have a number of students who are from Nigeria, Ghana, and sometimes we have a first name, family name, middle name. So I think the names, we want to get them right. So as long as your friends are happy calling you Olu, we can call you Olu as well. That should be okay. I'll tell my colleagues as well.
All right. Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for attending the session.